Hey guys and gals, Twilight Link 21XX here, and welcome to 20XX Power. And welcome to the new format of the show. We're experimenting a little bit, so this may or may not be the standard formula that we're going to be using, but you can't really experiment without trying. So today, we are here to start a brand new sub-series, the Sonic Cycle. Now, there are many people with different opinions on when this cycle started. Some say it started as early as Sonic 3 for the Sega Genesis, and others still say it didn't happen until later, around Shadow the Hedgehog. I beg to differ. I think there actually is a clear and concise place where the Sonic cycle started. And that'd be right here. It's Sonic Heroes, Nintendo GameCube, PlayStation 2, and Xbox. Originally conceived of as the third entry in the Sonic Adventure franchise, director Takashi Iizuka quickly changed gears after the decline of the Dreamcast. The trend at the time was that Sega's games were geared towards the core audience, and he felt that the brand needed to have a broader audience. This led to a completely new gameplay style, as well as the most influential choice of all, making it multi-platform. Sonic Heroes was released on the Nintendo GameCube in America on January 5th, 2004, and was quickly followed by the Sony PlayStation 2 and Microsoft Xbox releases on the 27th of that same month. Let me make this clear. Nearly every decision made during the development of Sonic Heroes actually adds to the cycle of shame, known as the Sonic Cycle. But at the time, we the fans had no clue what was going on internally. As far as we knew, it was just simply growing pains because they were now developing a game for a non-Sega system for the first time, dedicated. If only it was that simple. So let's take a look at the game. For starters, the graphical style of this game isn't too bad. It feels like an at-the-time next-gen Sonic Adventure 1, complete with the overdone shine. Personally, I feel that Sonic Adventure 2 both looks and has aged better, but that's just my take on the textures. Everything has a Vista feel to it, and no, I'm not talking about everyone's favorite OS Whipping Boy. By this, I mean that the camera gives the players a great view of the levels, which normally would be a good thing. But in Sonic Heroes' case, it makes the gameplay harder than it should be. The angle is such that it's hard to see what's coming up next when you're dealing with hills and cliffs while moving at rapid speeds. The stages are also huge and take upwards of 5 minutes to complete when running straight through them. For most games, this is a good thing, but for a Sonic game, this only slows down the gameplay, which is a major no-no. In the game, you play as one of 4 teams, each consisting of 3 characters. They are Team Sonic, Team Dark, Team Rose, and Team Calyx. They all pretty much control the same, but have a few tiny quirks that keep them somewhat unique. Each team has a speed, power, and flight specialist, and you can switch leaders on the fly. This all sounds like a decent enough system, and on paper, it has potential, but in practice, this kind of gameplay style doesn't fit the game engine that Sega designed, and leads to a major departure from the formula that makes Sonic what it is: speed. And that's the main reason that this game fails to get the spirit of Sonic. It's the reaction that Sega and Sonic Team had to what fans had said about the previous games. And this is something that crops up constantly. Now, I know, the answer is no, Sega actually does listen to their fans. That's the problem. They usually don't get the heart of the message. See, when Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 came out, a lot of fans complained about the way that they handled the exploration aspect. That wasn't evident in the main gameplay. It wasn't the same way as it was back in the Sonic 2D games for the Genesis. A lot of fans wanted that back. So in order to do that, Sonic Team and Sega decided that this new game would focus more on the exploration aspects. They forgot to put in the speed. This isn't to say that long levels have no place in a Sonic game, but when the long levels are tediously lengthened artificially with simple door puzzles, numerous bottomless pits, and automatic corkscrews and loops, then you have a game that slows itself down. While part of this can be chalked down to the camera system, the real problem is the game engine. You see, Sega is actually quite notorious, especially Sonic Team, for not understanding how to use third-party software. A good example of this is actually Sonic Adventure DX. Believe it or not, that little port was nowhere near as good as the GameCube Sonic Adventure 2 Battle because of the fact that it was designed to be ported onto the PC as well from the outset. This ended up causing the game to possibly have those little glitches we saw, such as frame rate troubles. It may have been designed for a PC with far higher specs than the GameCube, for all we know. Overall, though, the problem with Sonic Heroes is the fact that it uses renderware. See, Sega doesn't exactly have a good track record with using those tools properly. If you know anything about renderware, it was actually designed as a game engine for the PlayStation 2 that could be ported over to the Xbox and the GameCube. But the flagship title was always the PS2 edition. That was not the case with Sonic Heroes. Problem number 1. Using Criterion's engine from Burnout and all the Rockstar games to make a game for the GameCube. Well, you'd think that would make sense, as Sega developed for the GameCube pretty much exclusively at this point. In this case, they end up rolling the dice completely wrong.
Sonic Team was most familiar with Nintendo's architecture at the time, having no previous experience with PS2 development, as all the ports of their games were outsourced. This led to the game having a very quirky camera system that was a hybrid between the Sonic Adventure system and most modern platformers. Additionally, we have what appears to be a lower polygon count in the graphics throughout, though this may very well simply be the change in art style. If you're looking to play this game, stay far away from the PlayStation 2 version due to the choppy frame rate. I'm using the GameCube version for footage, but the Xbox version is about the same quality. But the salt to the wound that makes Sonic Heroes the disappointment it is the story direction. Sonic Heroes takes a step back from the darker storyline in Sonic Adventure 2 and chooses instead to go down a back-to-basics route, choosing to have Sonic and friends try to stop Dr. Eggman's evil plans. Not all is as it seems though, and it appears the not-so-good Doctor may not be the man behind the strings after all. Great, right? Especially when you have a selling point like the return of Metal Sonic. But that's part of the problem.
So up to this point, I actually have yet to use spoilers in my reviews. In order to get my grievances about the story taken care of though, I'm gonna have to spoil it. So, in order to take care of this, I'm gonna borrow a little something from Rue of Clan of the Grey Wolf, link to his website here, link to RetroWare TV here, and of course, most importantly, link to his YouTube here. Check their stuff out. I'm gonna use this little Sonic right here in the corner. As soon as he's gone, spoilers will be done. Again, thanks for that idea, Rue. Really appreciate it.
Anyhow, the biggest problem with this story is Metal Sonic. When you get to the end of the game, we find out that Metal was the one behind the entire plot. Awesome, right? It would be if we actually got a proper fight with Metal Sonic. See, Sonic Team went through all the trouble to come up with a new design for him, yet we only see it in cutscenes. Instead, we have to fight this monstrosity, and while it technically is Metal Sonic, it just doesn't have the same feel. It's a waste of the design, and it's a very anticlimactic ending that could have been better if we had actually had a proper fight between Super Sonic and Metal Sonic. Story gripes aside, the presentation is definitely the strongest point of this game. Although the graphics for the pre-rendered cutscenes don't quite match those of the Sonic Adventure games, they're still pretty strong, although I do believe this mostly has to do with the change of art style rather than anything else. The voices, on the other hand, are a major disappointment. Although they are the same voices from previous games, they just feel like they're phoning in their performances.
Sounds like an invitation to party.
What are we gonna do, Sonic?
No worries.
And in the fact that you can only use the English voices and don't have a Japanese option, and that's a major salt to the wound of many a Sonic fan. Thankfully, the music side of the sound department is nowhere near the same boat. Jun Sano delivers, as always, with an eclectic set of music in the spirit of Sonic Adventure 1. Every song complements the environments to a T. Nothing feels out of place, with the exception of the horny opening, of course. With the exception of that tune, the rest of the music does not distract, but that's not necessarily a good thing in the sense that nothing is memorable. There's a lot better tracks that have been done in the Sonic game previously, but like I said, it doesn't distract, so take that how you will. In terms of playtime, Sonic Heroes manages to keep it high, but not in the way that it should. Part of the problem is that Sonic Heroes goes back to the Sonic roots with the special stages, requiring that you gather all 7 Chaos Emeralds. You play through these stages that are very reminiscent of the Sonic 2 and Sonic Advance special stages. Once you get all the emeralds and complete the game, you get the final story. This is great, but there's just one problem. The game never tells you have to do that. Not to mention that the core game doesn't place a lot of emphasis on gathering the emeralds. If it wasn't for the fact that I had a strategy guide, I probably wouldn't have even known that there was a last story in the game. So let that be known. If you're gonna have a last story in your game, tell the gamers, please.
All in all, Sonic Heroes is not as bad of a game as it made it out to be. But it is the start of the Sonic cycle, as all it amounts to is a mediocre game that misses the entire point of Sonic: speed and exploration. That balance is critical, and Sonic Heroes fails to hit that mark. Throw in the fact that it has iffy ports, loss of production values, and a story that disappoints. There is no way I can justify anything higher than a C rating. Effort was clearly put into this game, and it is a finished product, but it just doesn't fit the IP. But we're just getting started here, folks. Tune in next time to 20XX Power as we go further into the Sonic cycles. We take a look at...
Damn it!
Yeah, that game. See you next time.